What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and in this video I'm going to be doing two things. The first half is going to be the JRW Gear Cheat Sheet Pro, which you see in front of you, and then the second half I'm going to be doing a scale swap on the Nafs Lander. And so if you're only interested in how to do the scale swap, really simple, but skip to the second half of the video. And in the first half I'm going to be focusing on this. So what you see on the table is what you get for $119. Three different colorways: black, gray, or orange. There's also an uncerakoted wood top version for $99. And it comes with the cork tray in the background, which is not glued down. If I flip this over, it will fall out. And that's intentional because there's other optional parts that you can add in there. It also comes with these two little key fobs that you can add to your keychain. I probably wouldn't put my entire keychain on here just because I kind of use this currently as a dump tray or valet tray. And so those just kind of go in here, but it's nice for like a PO box key or storage key, random individual keys, and they fit in here. The section that they sit in is actually a ruler as well, so each of the larger slots is 1 inch, and then you have the 1/2 inch marker in between. And the key fobs fit obviously in any of them. I'm not currently using those, but it is a nice option. Now, I bought this originally as a maintenance tray, which is how they sell it as well, and it was going to replace my Tinker Force maintenance tray, but what I found out was that that's pretty hard to replace. I really enjoyed the Tinker Force maintenance tray because of its modularity. This one obviously looks a lot better, but the other one's a lot more functional for me personally, and probably for most people because of how modular it is. And so if you want something that's cool looking, this is a great one. It's 8.75 inches wide, 6.25 inches tall, and the height of it's about 0.8 inches with the rubber feet underneath, so it's not going to slide around too much. It can slide, but it won't just slide on you. Now, the reason, like I said, that I like the Tinker Force better is this 3D printed. It has the same cork background. There's 3 different sizes of trays, so if you want something only the size of this section, that's available. If you want something a little bit bigger, that's available too. And there's slots on the top where you can add 3D printed different storage options. And see, there's a pen jar, there's one that holds bits, there's one that holds specifically Loctite and KPL, there's one that will hold your driver, there's one that even holds the JRW curators. And so there's a lot of different options, and that's why I like it so much. And so this one ended up, since I didn't use it for that, as a valet tray. And I bought it during the pre-order, so it came with both of these parts, but now that the pre-order is over, they're all sold separately. So what you get here is $119, and then for $30 you can add either this pyramid tray, which is based on his regular curator and what most people know JRW for, and these slot right into there. You can remove the cork tray and they'll be pretty much flush with the rest of the tray. I just throw it on top of there because I don't really care about that, but if you do want it to be flush, you can remove it. But then for $30 also, this is sold separately. This is just a normal kind of valet tray look to it. And so they're color matched, but different material. This is a cerakoted, I think, wood, and these are rubber, so they're flexible. But both of these also can stand on their own. $30 again. They look kind of cool, but can be added to the tray separately. That main pocket that you see is 5.73 inches wide by 4.98 inches tall and about 0.625 inches deep without any of the inserts. So let me just take that out just so you can kind of see what's under there. So it's just kind of like a particle board or something like that underneath, but with that tray in there, it does get a little bit less deep, which is fine. But the reason I'm moving away from this as a valet tray is he actually just released these curator trays, which I think look a little bit cooler and will work well for a valet tray. And so this is going to be kind of my backup maintenance tray. The Tinker Force I have on a rolling cart that I can take from room to room and whatever, but I'm going to keep this one at the table where I record because I do end up doing a lot of random maintenance before or after videos where I'm just kind of tinkering with stuff. And so it would be good to have a dedicated setup here. And so that's what I'm going to do going forward. Now, this one, besides being modular to make it a valet tray, isn't really modular. Everything is kind of pre-built. You have to use it the way that it was intended. And so it can be a little bit difficult to find items that specifically work with the what you want. And so it's kind of built with certain tools in mind, and that works. These right 4 holes are mainly for dumping your parts. So if you're disassembling something, it has a different screw for the body, a pivot, and different screws for the pocket clip. You can put them in different sections as you're removing them so you don't get them confused and know exactly what's what. When I'm using it as a valet tray, what I kept in one of them was this Ace Beam E70, which seems to fit pretty much perfectly, but obviously a smaller flashlight, bigger flashlight wouldn't necessarily fit there. So that kind of lack of modularity there makes it a little bit more difficult to find specific items, but it is sometimes fun also to try and find items that fit in the certain spots. But these slots over here work well for bits. I have this County Comm Norton's cleaning stick, and this kind of sits in there. I'm planning on leaving that in there. And then this section will fit a few bits. I'll probably throw a T6, a T8, and a T10 in there. But this is kind of one of the longer bits. It obviously will fit longer, shorter, whatever you want. And so you can fit some bits in there. You can put pens in the top up here. This one's obviously an Expo marker. Depending on the shape and size of the pen, it might lean a little bit. So you can see if I put this the other way, it leans just a little bit, but not too bad. Probably not gonna keep any pens there. But you can also keep a bit driver in there with a bit in there. So for most of my bit drivers, they're too thick to fit in this slot, but you can put them kind of in there with a bit and it'll keep them standing. With this one in particular, it's got a big enough base that it just stands there. But for example, this County Comm one also has a bit installed, sticks out a little bit further and also isn't flat on the end. And so when I set this one in there, it just kind of leans, which is fine too. But I'll probably actually end up using it with this one and the County Comm base that they have. I'll just switch this out for more Torx bits instead of all these flat heads. It has a few Torx bits in there, but this kind of holds both the bits and the driver, so I'll probably just keep this kind of next to it. But this Good Screw one, this is their Concrete model. This fits actually well in that slot as well if you put it upside down, so it fits in these slots if you want to find a bit driver that fits in those slots. This is one of them. And then before I dive into the Lander, I do have another tool that I'm going to keep with this, and this is really not related to this review, but I think a helpful little tool. This is from Glider. They're known mostly for their ballast songs, but this will work with anything. This is a bit holder, and so what this does is exactly what it sounds like. It holds a bit, but it doesn't spin. The base is rubber, and so it kind of locks it into place, not necessarily on this cork, but if I move this out of there, it'll hold it into place. And so the purpose of this is for if you have a double-sided pivot, which is a little bit more common with ballast songs, but it happens with knives too, you'll have a double-sided non-D-shaped pivot that's free spinning, and so it can be a pain to hold that in place. And so what this does is just you put the bottom portion of the pivot on here, it will hold it in place, and then you can use another bit driver to spin the other bit or the other side of it so that you can remove it without having to kind of fidget with holding it in place, which can be somewhat difficult. Sometimes you can't just do it with your finger always. So what you end up doing is doing 2 different bit drivers, and it takes a lot of dexterity. This takes all of the challenge out of that, and so this will kind of go alongside that. It's not a super common problem that I have, but when you do run into that, it's really nice to have. And these are like $12, I think. They're sold out a lot, but they also come in stock. So when I first saw it, it was sold out. I added my name to the email notification list, and like a week later, they emailed me that they were in stock. So I'm not sure if that's common. It seems like they're restocking them though. It's sold out again now, but if you're interested in it, definitely just sign up for the notifications. That worked well. The bit driver is actually pretty cool too. So on this side, you have a torquing section, so you can add the bit here and really be able to break through that Loctite. And on this side, it's just a normal bit driver, so you can turn it as normal. It's not as comfortable as either of the other bit drivers when you're doing that because of its square shape, but it also doesn't roll away on you, which is nice. So these I think are $15. And then one other tool they have is a pivot aligner. So obviously it depends on the pivot, but this should work for most of them. It just helps you kind of line everything up when the pivot's not in place. And so just a couple of tools that I'll probably keep nearby as well for this station. It's not necessarily my main station that I use, but like I said, I end up tinkering with a lot of stuff here, so it works well. But overall, I think this is a pretty cool tray. For the price of the Tinker Force, I can't say get this over the Tinker Force, but this one looks significantly better if that matters to you. It also works pretty well. It just, you have to kind of really come up with exactly what you want to put in it, whereas with the Tinker Force you can kind of adjust that experience to what you already have. And so big differences there, but I do think this is cool. Obviously I'm a huge fan of JRW. I have a ton of their stuff, the unboxing knife that I use on the channel, the Curator trays, the Curator flexes, use a ton of their products. But for as far as a maintenance tray goes, I definitely prefer the Tinker Force a little bit, but this is another cool option if the Tinker Force isn't for you. Now let's get into the Nafs Lander. So I've done a video on this, so I'm not going to talk about the knife too much, but the main kind of selling point of this is that the right to maintain your knife, he encourages you to swap the scales out, so much so that he actually released the CAD file so anyone can create custom scales for this, and he sells a bunch of scales on the website. These are not the original scales. The original scales on this one were just plain blue scales. I switched it out for the Mexican blanket, and now I'm going to swap it to a different set of scales that I just picked up. I'm probably going to buy a second black one, so I'm just trying to decide which one I want on the regular blade and which one I want on the blacked out version. But the ones I picked up, and I have the, oh, this is the bag for those scales so I can put them back into there, is the Kitty Cosmo crew. So these are a series that he's done a lot of. I have the only one other set, the Baby Banter set with the Space Kitty. So this one's obviously in a rocket going to Mars. I think it actually has a lander on it, which is funny since the Lander one doesn't. But he does a bunch of these. This one has this kind of free-floating space cat chasing after its grail knife. I'm not sure if that's Lander or not, can't actually tell. And then on the back side you have one just kind of floating through space as well. So cool skills. I'm going to go through how to swap them. It's super simple. It takes a standard T6 bit for all of the screws. I don't know if you can actually read that, but it's fine if you can't, just take my word for it. All of the screws are T6 and there's 4 screws on each side. So you have the 2 main body screws and then the pocket clip insert if you're on this side, or the pocket clip screws on this side. So same 4 screws. I always start with the pocket clip section, so the insert. When you get them, they come Loctited, but it's pretty easy to break. It's just blue Loctite, so it's not super tight in there. They do recommend you Loctite them back in. I didn't because I knew I was planning on swapping them again, and so at some point I probably will, but I'm not sure which ones I'm going to keep on this knife and which ones I'm going to swap over. But after those 2 insert screws, you have the body screws. They're a little bit different shape. Still T6, but different shape, so I do keep those in a separate slot. But both of the body screws are going to be the same size as each other. Now, the nice thing about the Lander is that when you remove these scales, you're not actually disassembling the knife. So if you're not comfortable disassembling the knife, which you can still do, there's obviously more screws in here. You don't need to. It just pops off the scales. These snap into place. I believe the show side is going to get the kind of main image, and you can just kind of snap those into place and screw everything back in. Super simple. I'm using a magnetic bit, so it's a lot easier to grab onto these screws. Definitely would recommend that. I think usually they do come magnetized, but you can demagnetize if you want. They also sell little blocks for magnetizing them if you do demagnetize it, but just want to make sure you don't over tighten it so you don't strip the screw. It doesn't take that much to get those into place. And then for that lock bar insert, I left it in the scale itself, I think. Yeah, I did. So just need to pop that out of place, which sometimes it can be a little bit tight. You can just throw the bit in there and then slide this back into place and reinstall those 2 screws. So super simple. We're going to do the same thing on the back side in just a moment, but a little bit hard to get this lined up when you're recording. Usually a pretty quick process, and you can see even with that, it took just a few seconds to get that swapped out on this side, and then on the other side. All in all, you're going to be in and out in probably 2 minutes. Even on your first try, it doesn't take a lot of effort. The pocket clip screws do go a little bit deeper, so you have to turn it a little bit more, but not significantly so. This one kind of seemed like it spun a little bit more, but Onto the back side, you can see there's an opening in here so you can insert your bit driver in there. I like these kind of bit drivers because they just kind of spin in the palm of your hand. So this back section, I've done a video on this as well, is on bearings, so it'll spin forever. You don't actually need that. Even on the County Comm one, it doesn't spin that long, but really effective for just being able to spin in place without readjusting your hand. So I do like that. If you aren't using one like that, definitely think about checking them out. It's not necessarily necessary, but really kind of nice addition. And so you're going to pop that pocket clip off. Same thing, 2 body screws on here. The scale was the same as the other one with the addition of this Knaf section, which gets hidden by the pocket clip. I actually wouldn't have minded seeing that on the show side. Same thing over here as well. Same placement of the 2 body screws, and those are, again, blue Loctited in, but not too easy to break through. I've already done this and removed them, and so already broke through that, but even the initial time wasn't too difficult. And you can, again, just pull that off. Sometimes you'll see like it got a little bit stuck on there. It wasn't too much, but if you need it, you do have these tools. You can just kind of get underneath there and pop it off. And then on this side, you see the same thing. There's 2 more screws. You have your pivot screw. It's only on one side, non-hardwared on this side. Or non-tooled, I guess is what it's called. But same process, we're just gonna snap that back into place. Make sure everything's lined up, and then go into the body screws first. And screw those into place. Again, not too tight so you don't strip out the screws. And then lastly, we're gonna throw that pocket clip back on there. Or if you don't want a pocket clip, you can order all of the parts for this, which is nice as well on the Nafs website. I ended up picking up both the screws on the Nafs website. And so if you, for whatever reason, don't want a pocket clip, you can throw a second insert in there, and they sell that. If you lose any of these screws, they sell them, and they're obviously pretty cheap. Just got to get that all lined up and back into place. And again, with that magnetized clip, or magnetized bit, it makes it easy to just kind of slide through that opening. And last screw goes into place, and that's it. So as far as Loctite goes, you can definitely do it if you know you're not going to change them out. I'm probably going to continue buying scales for these and swapping them. That's really what he intended with this. And so this one looks really cool. I think the Knaf Space Kitty is still available. The Mexican blanket one I think is sold out currently. Probably will restock at some point, but these ones are usually pretty limited, but it's still available as well. I think it looks really good. And again, if you're using the Loctite, there's a couple different kinds. I like to use the one that looks like a glue stick and you just kind of dip the screw in there. That works well for me. You can get whatever works for you though. I'll link to pretty much everything that you see here if it's available. I think everything's available besides the glider tool set that I showed. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And as always, I hope you have a great one. Take care.